Did you know that a single glass of water can carry enough bacteria to kill an entire family? Across the world, millions still drink from contaminated rivers, wells, and taps. And for some, every sip could be their last. This is the story of how water, the very essence of life, can also become an instrument of death. Hello and welcome. Today we're diving into one of humanity's oldest and deadliest enemies, cholera. In this episode, titled, When Water Turns Deadly, the Global War on Cholera, we'll uncover how a microscopic organism has shaped cities, rewritten public health history, and continues to threaten millions even in the 21st century. From the crowded streets of 19th century London to the refugee camps of Yemen and Haiti, cholera has followed humanity wherever clean water is scarce and poverty thrives. It's more than a disease. It's a mirror reflecting inequality, neglect, and the cost of ignoring public health infrastructure. But what exactly is cholera? How does it spread so quickly, and why does it remain a global threat even today? To understand that, we must start at the very beginning, with the invisible killer hiding in the world's most essential resource. Cholera is more than a word from history books. It's a living reminder of what happens when clean water becomes a luxury. Medically, it is an acute diarrheal infection caused by the bacterium Vibrio cholerae, which enters the human body through contaminated food or water. Once inside, it releases a toxin that forces the intestines to expel massive amounts of fluid. In severe cases, death can occur within hours from dehydration and shock. According to the World Health Organization, cholera remains one of the fastest-killing infectious diseases known to humankind. A person can appear healthy in the morning and be dead by nightfall. Yet, despite its frightening speed, the disease itself is both preventable and treatable. The real tragedy lies not in biology, but in inequality. Cholera thrives where sanitation fails. It flourishes in overcrowded cities, refugee camps, and disaster zones. Anywhere sewage seeps into the same water people use to drink, cook, and bathe. These are the places where public health systems collapse under the weight of poverty and neglect. But cholera is not only a disease of the poor, it is a warning sign for all. The presence of cholera bacteria in a water system means something deeper has gone wrong. That infrastructure is broken, that governance has failed, that the promise of safe water, a human right, has been betrayed. Understanding cholera means understanding the link between water, sanitation, and survival. It's not simply about infection, it is about the fragile balance between civilization and chaos, a balance that can shatter the moment clean water disappears. Every year, cholera infects up to 4 million people and kills as many as 140,000, according to the World Health Organization. Yet these numbers barely capture the real scale of suffering, the fear that grips families every time it rains, the chaos in overcrowded hospitals, the heartbreak of losing a child within hours of the first symptoms. In countries like Haiti, Yemen, Bangladesh, and parts of sub-Saharan Africa, cholera outbreaks have become brutal reminders of how fragile public health can be. In Yemen, the ongoing conflict and collapse of sanitation systems created the largest cholera outbreak in modern history, with over 2 million suspected cases. The disease spread faster than international aid could arrive, a vivid picture of what happens when infrastructure and humanity both fall apart. But cholera isn't just a story of crisis. It's a story of connection. Every outbreak exposes the threads that tie health to poverty, politics, and inequality. When clean water is denied, disease becomes inevitable. When governments delay action, epidemics become unstoppable. Even in the 21st century, cholera acts as a global barometer, measuring how much progress we've truly made toward equality and basic human rights. It asks uncomfortable questions. Why do some cities enjoy safe tap water while others rely on rivers filled with waste? Why are vaccines and sanitation projects still underfunded when the solutions are already known? The answer is rarely scientific. It lies in priorities, in who has the power to decide which lives are worth protecting. And that's why cholera remains more than a disease. It is a reflection of our collective neglect, a warning carved in water. Because as long as a single community drinks from a contaminated source, the next outbreak is only a storm away. To fight cholera, we must first understand how it moves. Silently, invisibly, through the veins of human civilization. Unlike diseases that need close contact, cholera spreads through water, the most universal element of life. It begins when the bacterium Vibrio cholerae contaminates a shared water source, a well, a river, a pipe, often through sewage leakage or improper waste disposal. Once introduced, it can sweep through communities with terrifying speed. Inside the body, the bacteria release a toxin that disrupts the small intestine's ability to absorb water. The result is relentless vomiting and diarrhea so severe that victims can lose up to 10% of their body weight in a single day. Without immediate rehydration, through oral rehydration salts or intravenous fluids, death can occur within hours. But the true battleground against cholera lies outside the body. Public health response, not medical treatment alone, determines whether an outbreak will fizzle out or explode. Experts use a three-tiered strategy: contain, treat, and prevent. First comes containment, isolating cases, disinfecting water sources, and ensuring safe burial practices to halt further contamination. Then comes treatment, focused on hydration and antibiotics when necessary. But the most crucial and often overlooked step is prevention, providing clean water, improving sanitation, and vaccinating at-risk populations. The oral cholera vaccine has become a powerful tool in recent years. In major outbreaks like Yemen and Mozambique, emergency vaccination campaigns helped protect millions. Yet vaccines are only a temporary shield. Long-term safety depends on infrastructure, functioning water systems, sewage management, and consistent monitoring. The historical fight against cholera gave birth to modern public health itself. In 1854, during a deadly outbreak in London, physician John Snow traced the source of infection to a contaminated water pump on Broad Street. His discovery marked the birth of epidemiology, proving that disease was not divine punishment, but preventable through data, logic, and sanitation. More than a century later, the lesson remains the same. Cholera doesn't need new science. It needs political will. It doesn't demand miracles. It demands maintenance. It reminds us that the strength of a nation's health is measured not in its hospitals, but in its pipes. Wherever water flows freely and safely, cholera disappears. Wherever it stagnates in neglect, it waits, patient, ancient, and deadly. In the 19th century, cholera was the scourge of industrial Europe, a disease of filth, overcrowding, and ignorance. It struck London, Paris, and Hamburg with the same fury it now unleashes in the slums of Dhaka or the refugee camps of Yemen. The difference is not the bacterium, it's the world that learned, and the one that didn't. In London, John Snow's discovery of the Broad Street pump transformed the fight against cholera forever. His work showed that disease was not spread by miasma or bad air, but by contaminated water. This revelation led to the construction of modern sewage and clean water systems, the invisible infrastructure that turned deadly cities into safe ones. Within decades, cholera vanished from Western Europe. It wasn't defeated by medicine, but by plumbing. Yet that victory never became universal. In the 21st century, the same bacterium still ravages parts of the global south. Not because we lack the cure, but because millions still live without the systems that Europe built 150 years ago. Cholera's persistence today is a failure of equity, not science. Take Haiti, for instance. The contrast is not technology, it's access. Cholera exposes a cruel truth. The same global economy that can deliver smartphones to every corner of the planet still struggles to deliver clean water. Public health experts often call it a disease of inequality, one that thrives not in ignorance, but in indifference. Every modern outbreak is a reminder that our progress is selective, that the promise of safe water remains unfulfilled for billions. The story of cholera, then, is not about medicine's triumph, but humanity's unfinished work. It challenges us to ask, if we could defeat this disease in the 1800s, why does it still claim lives today? Across continents, the war against cholera continues, not in laboratories, but in the dusty outskirts of forgotten towns, in overcrowded refugee camps, and along rivers where the line between life and disease blurs with every tide. Yet amid tragedy, there is also progress, a growing recognition that cholera is not an inevitable curse, but a solvable problem. The World Health Organization, together with partners like UNICEF and the Global Task Force on Cholera Control, launched an ambitious plan to end cholera by 2030. Their strategy is built on three pillars: early detection and rapid response, targeted vaccination, and universal access to safe water and sanitation. These aren't abstract goals. They are measurable, achievable, and already saving lives. Take Bangladesh, once known as the home of cholera. Decades of investment in clean water, health education, and community-led sanitation have cut cases dramatically. In Zambia and Sudan, emergency vaccination campaigns have stopped outbreaks before they spiraled. And in Yemen, despite war and chaos, mass oral vaccine drives have protected millions. Proof that even in crisis, coordinated action can turn the tide. But while vaccines save lives, they are not enough. True prevention depends on infrastructure, clean water pipes, waste systems, and continuous surveillance. Each outbreak that occurs is not just a failure of hygiene, it's a failure of governance, of investment, and often of empathy. The tools to eliminate cholera already exist. What's missing is the sustained commitment to deploy them everywhere they're needed. Technology and innovation are also reshaping the battlefield. Satellite mapping now tracks rainfall and water contamination in real time. AI-driven models predict outbreaks before they happen. Portable water purifiers and community filtration units are reaching remote villages once thought unreachable. Each innovation reinforces a timeless truth, that prevention is always cheaper, faster, and more humane than response. Still, for every success story, there are millions left behind. Over 2 billion people worldwide lack access to safe drinking water, and 3.6 billion live without basic sanitation. Until these numbers change, cholera will remain a shadow that follows every flood, every war, every collapse of order. The fight against cholera is ultimately a fight for justice, for the right to live without fear of the water you drink. Winning it will require more than vaccines or budgets. It will require global solidarity, political will, and the belief that clean water should never be a privilege, but a promise. Cholera is not just an ancient disease. It's a modern warning. It tells us with brutal clarity that public health is only as strong as its weakest link. For centuries, humanity has known exactly how to defeat this illness. Clean water, proper sanitation, and education are its undoing. Yet today, tens of thousands still die every year because those simple guarantees have not reached everyone. The story of cholera is the story of human progress and human neglect. It taught us how to trace disease, how to build sewage systems, and how to organize communities around public health. But it also exposes our failure to extend those victories beyond the borders of wealth and privilege. Each outbreak, whether in Haiti or Yemen, is not just a medical emergency. It is evidence that the world's promises of equity and justice remain unfinished. 3 lessons stand out. First, disease does not respect geography. As long as cholera exists anywhere, it threatens us everywhere. Second, infrastructure is destiny. Pipes and policies save more lives than pills and prayers. And third, public health is collective health. No nation is safe until all have access to clean water and sanitation. We've reached a moment in history where eradicating cholera is entirely possible. The science is ready, the tools exist, and the roadmap is clear. What remains uncertain is our resolve, because when water turns deadly, it's not nature's failure, it's ours. And if we have the courage to act, the next generation may grow up in a world where cholera exists only in history books, a ghost of a time when we mistook inequality for fate. If this story made you look differently at the water running from your tap, you've already taken the first step. Awareness. Cholera isn't just a disease of the past, it's a mirror of the present. It shows us how fragile our systems are, how deeply our health depends on decisions made far beyond the doctor's office. Clean water is not charity, it's justice. Every pipe laid, every well purified, every sanitation system repaired is an act of protection, not just for one community, but for all humanity. The fight against cholera is really a fight for equality, for a world where no child dies from drinking water and no mother fears the rain. So if you found this video meaningful, don't let it stop here. Share it, talk about it, and subscribe to stay part of this conversation about the battles shaping global health. Because the more we understand the systems that sustain us, the more power we have to change them. In our next episode, we'll turn to another invisible threat, the air we breathe, and explore how pollution has become the world's deadliest environmental killer. Until then, remember this: every drop of clean water is a victory, and every victory begins with knowing why it matters.